Hello everyone, my name is Jane and welcome to my 2022 reading goals. So we are almost in 2022, which is really crazy. Like, you can't believe how fast 2021 passed. And honestly, since 2020, I feel like time is just flying by. But we are almost in 2022, although it's hard to believe. And I feel like this is the time to set some goals for the new year, especially some reading goals and things that I want to accomplish in 2022. Now, I actually never set yearly reading goals, except the main goal of how many books I want to read each year. But this year, I do have some reading goals that I really want to accomplish next year. They are not really hard. Most of them are pretty simple and just things that I want to be more aware of next year. So I think that let's just start with my first goal for 2022. And this is my reading goal, the number of books that I want to read. But before I will tell you the number, I do have two sub goals in this bigger goal that are related to the number of books that I want to read. And the first will sound confusing to you, but I will explain it. My goal is to read less books in 2022. No, yes, less books. Why? But basically, I read a lot this year. Currently, I read 146 books in 2021, and I'm still going to finish more books by the end of the month, and it doesn't include DNFs. So, like you can understand, I read a lot this year, and this is amazing. Like, I'm so happy that I was able to read so much, but although it's amazing that I read so many books, I do feel like there were so many books that I read that I didn't really enjoy from, and I read just for the sake of reading and just for the sake of reading more books each month. And I really want not to focus on those numbers this year and to just read when I feel like I want to read something. I do feel like in the beginning of 2021 I was more forcing myself to read, and in the second half of the year I was more mood reading and more aware of what I want to read and when I want to read it. But I still feel that I always tried to read over 10 books a month, which most of the times I accomplished, which is really amazing. But I really don't want to focus on numbers this year. Of course, if I will read the same number or even more next year, it will be amazing, but I won't try to read a lot of books. Now, the second sub goal in this bigger reading goal is to read longer books. I do want to get more into longer books in 2022. I actually don't think I will be reading a lot of longer books because I still have short books. I get bored really easily, so if I want to finish a book pretty quickly, I can get really bored, so that's why I usually tend to read shorter books. But I do want to be more aware of the longer books on my TBR and to give them a chance, and that's another reason why I want to read less books in 2022, so I can read longer books without feeling bad that it takes me so much time to read them. So yes, overall I want to read less books, more longer books, just not to look too much on the numbers in the next year. And my reading goal is still pretty high. It's going to be 100 books. I'm planning to read 100 books in 2022. It's still a lot, but I do feel like this is the perfect number for me. Also, to not feel too pressured to read, but at the same time, this number is still high enough for me to be motivated to read a lot, because I do want to read a lot, just not the amount of a lot that I read in 2021. And 100 books a year is an average of 8.3 books a month, so it's already less than 10 books a month, which was my goal this year. So I feel like this is perfect for me. 8-9 books a month feels good to me. So yes, 100 books is the goal that I want to read this year. I just don't want to look too much at the number of books that I read. Now, my second reading goal for 2022 is genres. I read a lot of genres, and honestly, I really love it. Because I'm such a mood reader, it's just really fun to me to really change the mood of the books that I read and to read a lot of different stuff. I do feel like I discovered a lot of genres this year that I wasn't reading in the past, and I really want to keep reading those genres. But there is a few genres that I almost don't read, and I do want to be more aware of how much I read from those genres and to put a goal to myself to read a little bit more of those genres, because I think I'm going to enjoy them. Those genres are sci-fi, dystopia, and historical fiction. Now, the thing with dystopia is that I was reading a ton of dystopia when I was little. I feel like we all had our dystopia phase in the Hunger Games era, Divergent, the Maze Runner, just a lot of dystopia books. So I don't feel like dystopia books are popular anymore. anymore. I do want to read more of them next year. It just won't be my priority because I just don't feel like there is a lot of variety of dystopia books that are interesting for me, especially because I do tend to get excited more for new releases. So being realistic, I don't think I will read a lot of backlist dystopia books this year. Let's just be realistic. But sci-fi is the genre that I want to read the most out of those three genres. I really want to get into sci-fi this year because I read sci-fi in my life, especially sci-fi dystopia, but just in general, I read a lot of sci-fi and usually I really enjoy sci-fi. So this is definitely a genre that I really want to read a lot more in 2022. Hopefully I will really get into sci-fi this year. And there is also historical fiction. I won't try to read as many historical fiction as I will try to read sci-fi. I do think I will be reading less, especially because a lot of times historical fiction is a little bit intimidating for me. I just feel like a lot of historical fiction books tend to be more character driven and more slow, and I'm a plot driven reader. But in overall, I do want to read a lot more historical fiction this year because historical fiction is like a big genre and there is so many types of books under historical fiction. So I'm sure that I can find historical fictions that I really love. So hopefully I will read a lot of sci-fi and a lot of historical fiction this year, and also dystopia. If I will find interesting dystopia, just again, I don't feel like it's really popular anymore. And another thing that is related to genres is audiobooks. What I mean is that this year I discovered audiobooks, and this is the most amazing thing ever. I love audiobooks. I will keep listening to audiobooks. Audiobooks are the reason that I am able to read so much each month. But the thing is that usually I tend to read contemporaries on audio because audio is more confusing. But this thing made me to read a lot of thrillers and romances on audiobook this year. But because of it, I almost didn't read thrillers and romances in text. So my goal this year is to be more aware of the genres that I read and not to get to the same place that I read specific genres only in audio and don't read those genres in text, because reading in audio is amazing, but it's a different feeling. And I noticed in November that I was really missing reading romances in text because I was just really used to reading romances only on audio. So I will keep reading a lot of audiobooks. I will try to read also other genres in audiobook, at least the genres that won't be too complicated for me to understand. So I guess not things with a lot of world building. But my goal for 2022 is just to be more aware and to notice that I read all genres also in text and not forget some of them because I read too much in audiobook. Now, if we are already talking about audiobooks, I want to get to my fourth goal for 2022, and this is formats. I am reading mostly or audiobooks or physical books. I will keep reading them, especially physical books. Of course, my goal is to minimize my physical TBR as much as I can, but for me this is obvious. I want to make another goal this year, and this goal is to read more ebooks. Now, it sounds weird because I do want to minimize my physical TBR, but I feel like there is so much benefits that ebooks can give me if I will read more ebooks. First of all, it saves a lot of space, and I do have a space problem, especially because I buy a lot of books. It's better for the environment, it's more cheaper, I can take ebooks with me anywhere. But especially, I feel like when I'm more aware that I have the option to read ebooks, it makes me buy less physical books. In the past few months, I started to read more ebooks, and it really made me to stop before buying a book and to ask myself, do I really need this book physically? Can I read it in audio or in ebook? And since I started to ask myself this question, I started to buy less books, which is really amazing. And also, I bought a Kindle, which is really exciting. This is the new Paperwhite Kindle. I actually still didn't read in it because I'm a little bit in a reading slump this month, but that's okay. I'm really excited to read more books here. And yes, I just feel like I can read more Kindle Unlimited books and just to save a lot of money like this. So I just want to read more, all of the formats, including ebooks, and not to forget the option to read ebooks. And yes, now let's get to my fourth goal of 2022. And this is a very personal goal for me, and it's going to be rereading books. People reread a lot of books, but I don't reread books. Like, I almost didn't reread books in my life. I remember that when I was younger, especially in high school, there were some books that I reread, but I don't think that I reread books in years. And the main reason is because I'm a very plot-driven reader, and I'm those kind of readers that hate spoilers. Because if I know what is going to happen, and if I can expect what is going to happen, I get not interested. And a lot of times, if I know spoilers for a book, especially spoilers that are really ruining the book, most of the time I won't even read the book because I'm just not interested to read the book if I know the end. Because for me, this mystery and this unknown of what is going to happen and this is what makes me want to continue reading a book. So because of it, I don't reread books, because if I will reread a book, obviously I know what is going to happen and what is going to be at the end. And of course, I won't remember everything, but still the big picture I will remember. And I really don't want to get to the state where I take a book that I really love and then reread it again and not love it to the same amount, or even be disappointment from it. And I just don't want to read my experience with books by rereading them and then making my last experience with this book not as enjoyable as the first one. So those are the reasons why I don't reread books. But I do actually want to try reading books. Again, I did reread books in my life when I was little. I remember that in high school I reread The Perks of Being a Wallflower something like 3 times. I was really obsessed with this book. So I do feel like I can maybe enjoy reading books, and I can get the appeal of wanting to read in books, especially your favorite books, and to see if you are feeling the same thing again. So I do want to try reading books in 2022. I really want to read at least 3 books in 2022. Hopefully I will enjoy it and I will read a lot more, but realistically I will set this goal to 3 books. So yes, I do want to read books in 2022. Now my 5th reading goal for 2022 is to DNF more books. So this is actually a goal that I have already for a few months, and actually I feel like I'm doing pretty well. In the past few months I was DNFing a lot of books, and I really made myself not to feel bad with DNFing books, and it really changed my reading game since then. I remember that in November it was one of my best reading months this year, and you don't know it, but I DNF'd something like 3 books, and I didn't even mention it because I do want to make DNFing more natural, and most of the time I won't even mention that I'm DNFing a book, because that's okay. I feel like I'm trying to read a book, and after a few chapters I'm realizing that I'm not that interested in the book, and that's totally okay. Not all of the books are for me, and because I have so many books on my TBR, I don't want to waste my time on books that I don't actually enjoy. And yes, like I said, in the past few months I was DNFing a few books, not a lot, but if I tried to read a book and I just didn't vibe with it, I stopped reading it, and that's totally okay. I do feel like my biggest problem is my physical books, because I feel so bad DNFing physical books. So that's the main thing that I want to work on in 2022. But yes, like since I'm feeling less bad to DNF books, I'm enjoying reading so much more, because I'm not wasting my time on books that I don't want to read. So that's why I want to DNF books, and I really enjoy it so far. Now my 6th goal for 2022 is to track my reading. This is another goal that I already started to do this year in 2021, and I just want to continue it. I started to do in the past few months an Excel sheet, and it's really fun to me to see the stats of the things that I'm reading. I was always tracking my reading and writing reviews in Goodreads, but seeing all the stats in an Excel sheet just makes me want to read so much more. So because I didn't start to do it from the beginning of 2021, I don't have my overall yearly reading stats, and I really want to have yearly stats in the end of 2022. So of course I will just keep tracking the books the same way that I'm doing now, but it will be more fun because I'm starting to do it from the beginning of the year, and I will have a whole year in front of me, which is going to be really fun. And finally, my last goal is Booktube Goals. I have 2 Booktube related goals that I really want to accomplish in 2022. The first one is to get back to doing reading vlogs. I was doing a lot of reading vlogs. I remember in the beginning of the year, I only started my Booktube channel in January. Yes, my Booktube birthday is getting really close, but in the beginning of my Booktube channel, I was doing more reading vlogs, and I stopped a lot of months ago just because I don't have time, I don't have energy, I don't have the patience. I'm working full time, so when I'm getting back from work, I'm just so tired. And also if I'm reading, I don't really want to film myself. So the main reason is because I don't really have time, and the other reason is because I'm really a mood reader, and it was hard for me to plan reading goals, and especially to plan themed reading goals, because I can decide that I want to do, for example, a reading vlog of fantasy, but when the time to film the reading goal will come, I won't really be in a fantasy mood anymore. So I feel like I was really struggling with those stuff, but I really want to get more into vlogging this year and to do some vlogs. Vlogs are really fun thing to watch, and I do want to make this content for you. I just feel like I need to find the type of reading goals that are more suitable for me. So yes, and my second Booktube goal is to complete my TBRs. No, not really, because I'm a mood reader and there isn't any chance for me to actually complete my TBR, but I am doing monthly TBRs, and I do have a TBR game, and I'm not going to force myself to read the books that were chosen in the TBR, because again, I'm a mood reader, and it will just put me in a really huge reading slump if I will be forcing myself to read something. But I do really want to try and to complete the prompts of my TBR game each month. So also if I won't read those specific books, I do really want to try and complete the goals and to read good books in the colors or in the prompts that I got in my TBR game. I still want maybe to track it on Twitter and to do reading threads and to try and complete my TBR game prompts. I feel like it will be really, really fun. Again, I won't force myself, but I will be more aware of it, and I think it will be really fun. And yes, those are my reading goals for next year, for 2022. Most of them aren't really hard. I don't want to force myself to complete goals. I really tried to really think and to understand what I actually want to accomplish. So I feel like in overall, this is it. Those are the things that I really want to accomplish next year. Honestly, I think the 2022 is going to be amazing reading year. 2021 wasn't the best, but I learned so much about my reading taste this year, and I'm sure that it will really help me to actually read books that I really love next year. I'm really excited. Like, I have an amazing feeling that next year is going to be so amazing with such amazing books and reads, and I'm just so excited for 2022. And yes, I really, really hope that you enjoyed this video. Please tell me, what is your main reading goal for 2022? Is there something that you really, really want to accomplish? And yes, I really hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye everyone!